Hello humans, Master Dinnerflax here, and today I'm going to be going over my vampire deck profile, blah! And so obviously the cards aren't going to be released in Japan until I think Saturday of the date of this video, but I went ahead and started testing them. And at first, when I really first seen them, I thought, wow, a lot of these are underwhelming. Until I started playtesting them, and then I realized, holy shit, this is awesome. So, I'm going to go ahead and get into it. So, before that, I need to explain, the mirror match is one of the craziest things you will ever play, because since all your cards revive things out of your opponent's graveyard, whenever you're playing a mirror match, it effectively is like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like every card you disrupt your opponent with also fuels your engine. It's probably one of the most interactive mirror matches I've ever seen. But anyways, let's get into it. We got 3 Shadow Vampire. This is, I think, the only old support you really need. I would like to play one of the sorceress or sorcerer, but it's kind of a brick to draw and it's really slow, so I just cut it. So 3 Shadow Vampire gets your engine going, gets you a lot of cards. Very, very good. 2 Scarlet. This replaced Duke. Duke was good and all, but Scarlet was better because you didn't have to get it in defense. Just synergized with the deck better, bigger stats. And, like, most of the stuff, you don't really need much of the old vampire support outside of Shadow. I do think Shadow is a 3 of necessity, but everything else you don't really need. It's just there and have, then have and there, I guess. Have and not need not have. Kind of bad situation. This card, I thought, oh, this is pretty weak. Then I started playing it, and every game I wanted to see it. I actually wanted to see it so much, I put it to 2. Because when you go familiar and you know you don't have another summon ready, you just search this, and this eliminates any shred of hope your opponent has of conducting their battle phase. This card is incredible. Just fantastic. You can effectively just make the battle phase non-existent with this card, because every time they try to attack, it's just game over for them. So good. 2 familiar. 2 brood, very, very good. They're like the reason I don't play 3 and 3 is because they're cards that clutter, and when you have 3 Gozuki, 3 Uni Zombie, and then you have like 3 Desire, you only need to see them once per turn because they're hard once per turn. So you're just better off playing 2 of each because you're gonna see them no matter what. You have to open ungodly bad not to see either of them. And if I had to say which one is better, you can't really describe it. You can only know when you're, depending on what you're up against. And finally, 1 Grimson. This one's kind of mediocre, but he's like a Cosmo Landwalker. Sometimes he feels really important to have, but honestly, he's probably very cuttable. And I might cut him soon enough, but I want to have the utility. 3 Gozuki. Now, this is abnormal for most, but when you're looking at Familiar and Brood, that card can really, really get you there. Like, Gozuki, fantastic. And, like, the banishing from your graveyard effect comes up all the time because all your monsters are so big, like, high level, that you sometimes just need to do that. So, yeah, Gozuki, fantastic. 3 Solitaire, really, really good. Just gets you to the Uni Zombie. It's actually weird because I don't really make Omega very much in that. I mean, I make Omega, but it's not the first turn play anymore because of a card I'll go over in the extra deck. 3 Mizuki. In theory, I thought, oh, I only needed to play 2, but I wanted to see the 3rd one all the time. Literally, I always wanted to see the 3rd one. And then finally 2 Uni Zombies. I was playing Recurring Nightmare when I had more of the older vampire stuff, which I think is still an option, but I'd just rather not. And this would be a target for it. Desire, this card is actually broken on here, but the Foolish Burial effect is absurd because if you summon Gozuki, send Mizuki, and then Desire, send Familiar or Brood, you can send Familiar, search a guy, and I have XCs just for this, and it's actually really, really cool. I love this card. 3 territory. So there was a discussion I was seeing earlier, like, oh man, how do we get vampires to gain all that life back? Because they pay even more than Dark Lords, and Dark Lords have that problem. I was like, hey, have you actually read any of their cards? They have 2 different power cards that allow you to gain like all your life back. And they were talking about garbage like Emergency Provisions and Mystic Walk and like actual trash. And I'm like, dude, just read the cards in the deck. They can get you there. So not only is this not like just a life point gain, but you can also pay once per turn 500 life points to get an additional normal summon of vampire. So that makes Gozuki, Territory, and Shadow just the nuts. It really does. 2 Soul Exchange and 1 Stormforth only because we have 1 Stormforth. I don't know how I feel about this package. It feels really strong going second, but I really do like to go first. I don't know. I'm still testing it. There's still a lot more testing that needs to be done with this deck, but it's going well. Foolish Burial, just because it's another copy of whatever you want in this deck. And Upstart, because I didn't even bother putting room in for Desires, because you need a lot of your engine cards. So I just might as well just play Upstart. 3 Domination. So this, no matter what you do, this will never be an Infernity-esque deck, because Domination is a hard once per turn. And you can only search it really 1 at a time. So rather than just try to bust your nut and combo the nuts off, just play it like an actual zombie deck, where it starts off fairly slow, but you just grind your opponent out of resources, and then the further you grind, the better your deck becomes, because you keep having all these resources in the graveyard. You should play this like a zombie deck that has an Infernity Barrier once per turn. So that's all I gotta say. And then I wanted a few other traps, so I put in 2 Strike and a Judgment. Again, like I said, you can just gain life. And this is another way to gain life, because if it negates a monster, you gain life equal to the destroyed monster's attack. So, extra deck, literally 1 Synchro and it's Omega. That's all I wanted. 2 Sheridan. I could probably just play 1, now I think about it, but it's alright. This Kai is kind of important. So, the Shadow Vampire, you can only use him for an XC of a dark monster, and this guy is like, outside of, Braum, he's kind of good, so you gotta play him in a vampire deck, unfortunately. I mean, he's okay, but he could be way better. Braum, very good, because the new Sheridan, it can actually use a monster that is owned personally by your opponent as an XC material, no matter what it is. And yeah, Braum's just a way to get there. Utopia package, Baguska just as the stun XC, Leviair, Centauria, and then Princess Sprite, because you can modulate the levels of your cards with a Desire. And then Borreload for the only big link. And then 3 Sucker. This card is insane, and it's very lewd if you actually look at the artwork. So, the card nets you a draw after you net advantage off of Mizuki and you net advantage off of Brood. The card's insane. Just extra draw power. And this is what makes the mirror match so insane, because it doesn't matter where a zombie is summoned from. As long as a zombie is summoned from a graveyard, you draw a card. It's absurd. And also, an important fact is you can tribute summon using opponent's zombie type monsters. So if it's a mirror match, that's automatic. But you can also summon a monster out of your opponent's graveyard and treat it as a zombie. So that effect is always actually live in this deck. So that's really cool. And the side deck doesn't matter. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you all for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. There's still a lot more testing I want to do with this deck, but it actually seems really, really good. Seems better than Shiranui's alone. Seems better. I wouldn't say it's better than 60 cards yet, but this is probably one of the best zombie decks I've ever seen. It plays just like a zombie deck where it starts off fairly slow, but the further the game goes, the more resources they have, and it makes it just a snowball downhill battle for your opponent. And I really like that playstyle. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you all for watching, and remember, Master Dinnerflex will take your soul.